Ken Walker and a pair of young edge rushers on the Seahawks led the way on Youth Watch Tuesday this week. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Made it to Tuesday. Still basking a little bit in the afterglow of that win. We are coming to the end of the 48-hour period, though. We are about 4 hours away from the end of the 48-hour period, so we're coming down quickly. We're starting to think about the next game against the Buffalo Bills, starting to think about the ramifications of maybe not having this player or having this player. But not quite there yet, I think, as a fan base. But today we're going to be starting with Youth Watch Tuesday. You guys know the drill. We look at the young players on the Seahawks, see how they're doing, how much they're doing to assist this team, how much they are doing to push this team in the right direction, and how much they are indicating good things down the line. So this was pretty good for the young players, I think. I think we know, right? I think we pretty much know that there were a couple guys who got left out in the cold this week, but it was definitely better than last week, where hardly anybody did anything, really. It was very, very dry last week. So this basically encompasses every player on a rookie contract. One or two exceptions, I think. But I do want to give one shout out real quick here to a player who is technically young. He's just not on that rookie deal. Josh Joby. I did not list him here. And in my defense, I think we all kind of understand that he's not going to be here very long, because that was just a call up because everybody was hurt, and there's a good chance players are going to come back this week. So even if he stays on the active roster beyond this week, he probably won't be playing very much, if at all, when guys like Woolen and Brown, et cetera, get back. But he is a younger player who stepped up and performed admirably Sunday for the Seahawks. So not listed here, but I do want to give him a shout out. You do need players like that to step up and do big things on occasion. And I'd say overall, that was a pretty big thing to help us limit that Falcons passing attack to not a heck of a lot. Okay, so running backs. Let's start with the running backs here. Obviously, every running back on this team is young, but only one of them was particularly effective on Sunday, and it was Ken Walker. He put up almost 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. PFF grade went up, even though it's already really high. That's obviously, a Ken Walker game, and it's one of his best games ever, and it comes when he's sick. What are we talking about? Like 20, not even 20 touches here, I think. Yeah, 16 touches, almost 100 yards, and he finds the end zone twice. Maybe our best player that whole game. And that's a big contrast with a guy like Zach Charbonnet, who did get touches, but he just couldn't get up the field on them. He had 14 yards on, I want to say, 9 or 10 touches. Yeah, 9 touches. So, clear contrast there. And what I'm going to say about that is seemingly common sense. I think some people miss this. Ken Walker is the kind of player who can excel without great run blocking. Charbonnet really needs run blocking. He's just not going to be able to do the things that Walker does. Now, Charbonnet's bringing things to the table that I don't think Walker has. Like, he's a better pass protector. And I do think, on the whole, he is a better third down back, even though Walker made a great catch on Sunday. But, yeah, I mean, the stats tell you. Charbonnet's actually played more snaps this year than Walker because Walker got hurt. And Walker has now more touches. Not by that much, though. And you can see that the production, it's not even close. So, Charbonnet has his value, but there are going to be games like that where if you don't block for him, he's just not going to get anywhere. McIntosh had a touch, 5 yards, so good for him. But, again, we just don't have a meaningful sample size on McIntosh. And every week it feels like people are calling for McIntosh to get more time because of Charbonnet, but I don't think Charbonnet's the guy that McIntosh is going to take snaps from, because Charbonnet's the only guy we really trust in protection as a blocker. So I don't know what it's going to take here, but McIntosh he is the human victory cigar. He gets out there when the game's over, and that surprises me. I thought we were going to see a little bit more from him. Maybe we see him as a receiver because of the Metcalf injury, because McIntosh lines up as a receiver a lot. That's something I've talked about before. All right. Receivers, young receivers on this team. This was a really boring week. JSN. I've already talked about this at length, but there's no way you should be playing a 3-hour game in Atlanta against that defense, and your stud slot receiver only has 9 receiving yards at the end of that game. And I know he had the trick play, which was awesome, but to my eyes, he's getting open. To my eyes, he's getting open. Every advanced metric out there says he's getting open, and he's currently on pace to have, like, what, maybe an 800-yard season? And he'll probably end up a little bit beyond that because he's eventually going to just have that one game like the game he had against New England earlier this year where he just randomly goes off. But this is becoming a little bit weird. It's just like we can't make it work, even though every metric out there tells us this guy gets open up more than anyone else on this team and at a very high rate compared to the rest of the league. So it's getting a little bit frustrating. I don't want to get too much into this because we still have a good offense, but it hasn't been good in every single game. It's not good in every single moment. And this seems like something that should have been addressed, that should have been a big part of the offseason plan. And right now it doesn't seem like it was. So he's doing his job, I feel like. I know he's dropping passes, and that sucks, but he's getting open. Get him the ball. And if he starts dropping 2 passes every game, okay, then we can have the conversation about how we can't trust him. Derek Young played 1 snap in this game, didn't do anything. I mean, you only get 1 snap. What are you going to do? Bobo had his worst game of his career, probably. Played a lot, had 1 drop, and blocked atrociously, according to PFF. AJ Barner had 1 catch for, what was it, 5 yards? 5 yards. I had a penalty that brought back a canine touchdown. So that sucked, but still, like what I see there overall. Would like to see more, maybe. Offensive line. Charles Cross gives up 3 pressures, and his grades do fall a little bit, but we are still in the catbird seat on Cross. 85 overall, 85.5 run block. The pressures are high mostly because we throw the ball more than any other team. So I'm still happy with what I'm seeing there, and he is really in the middle of that big time breakout 2024, and it's not going to cost $1 to keep him. Next guy who actually played would be Christian Haynes, and he played, I mean, he picked up a penalty. The grading was pretty rough, but at the same time, what I would say is that I thought his pass protection was pretty good, and I don't know if that run blocking grade that they gave him is reflective of reality, so I'm not too down on Haynes after that game, but didn't allow any pressures, and he was one of the lead blockers on our rushing touchdown. So even though PFF beat him up pretty bad, I'm still not, I'm still not down on him. Anthony Bradford played a pretty clean game. His grades are starting to pick up a little bit. He's almost to a 50, and remember how low he was at one point. Didn't allow any pressures, had no penalties in this game. Probably his best game of the year. It wasn't amazing or anything, but he played solid football. And the belle of the ball right now, Mike Jarrell. I mean, 1 penalty, 4 pressures. PFF grade's still pretty bad, but he filled in. I think that's all you can ask for a guy at this point. And again, I want to stress, I think that people were just so excited to see somebody lay some really nice blocks in the run game the way that Jarrell was, that they overlooked a lot of holes that Jarrell had in his game. So a lot of people saw these grades and were kind of confused. They didn't think he played nearly this bad. I think these grades are probably pretty reflective of reality. But as you can see, like, compared to what Forsyth was doing, we probably should hang with Jarrell for a little while here and just see if it deteriorates, because that's what happened with Forsyth. It deteriorated. He got worse and worse and worse. Maybe that was because of the competition. I don't know, but he was getting worse every week. So feels like an opportunity to hang with Mike Jarrell for a little bit longer here if you need to. We'll see what's going on with Fant this week. We'll see what goes on with Lucas. But for the moment, I think you hang with it, not because I think it's what he did was amazing, but because you may as well see if it heads the right way, because it didn't head the right way with Forsythe. He got worse. All right, now we swing over to the defense. Byron Murphy, 4 tackles, which is a lot for him. Again, he's usually not the guy who makes the play. He's the guy who sets the play up for other players. So that was really good. 1 tackle for loss. And that's the thing I talk about with him. He's a great play starter. He's a great disruptor, but he's not a finisher. In this game, he actually finished a play in the backfield, and his PFF grade went up. Remember, his PFF grade was bad before this game. It was like 57, I think. It was below 60, I believe. Yeah, 56.5. This game alone boosted it significantly, so he is now on the right track here. And you saw the difference that he made out there. Mike Morris didn't play a lot, didn't record any numbers. PFF grade went up a little bit, I believe, to 52.6. Probably at this point, he's just not going to play that much this year because of the Roy Robertson Harris trade, but I still am wondering if we're going to get things out of him at some point, because we did draft him. I know it wasn't a high pick, but we did draft him. Linebacker, both linebackers got on the field a little bit in this game in garbage time. I think Knight had 1 tackle. Drake Thomas had maybe 2. Neither PFF grade was good, but good to see those guys getting a little bit of burn, even if it's meaningless. And I'm going to keep saying it, the way the linebackers are playing, Tyrese Knight is probably vying for real playing time. Like, to me, and maybe it's just a factor of Atlanta's running game being really, really tough to deal with, but to me, Tyrese Knight is better, has looked better filling run gaps than Baker or Dodson for large portions of their games the last couple weeks. I'm not so much Drake Thomas. I'm not high on him in that way, but Knight, yeah. All right. Edge rusher. I mean, it was really one play in this game that stood out, but it was the play that ended the game. When you have a play like that, it makes you forget about a lot else. And I mean, Mafe picked up a sack in this game, obviously the strip sack that ended up going for the touchdown. And Derek Hall's the one who finished it. Derek Hall also added multiple pressures. Mafe had a few pressures as well. Both saw their grades go up. I mean, it's a winning formula, right? It's a winning formula to have 2 young edge rushers on that rookie deal doing damage. And when you consider the fact that Mafe has missed games, both guys are on pace to have double-digit sacks this year. Now, that comes at the expense of Nwosu. If he was out there healthy, he probably would have been limiting these guys and their production a little bit just by his presence. But at the same time, you'd rather have these guys do better than Nwosu, because Nwosu is an older player. He might not be here much longer. Mafe and Hall have a chance to be here for a long time. All right, cornerback. Oh boy. Witherspoon, I mean, he got spanked out there. I didn't realize how bad it was. I knew he was having problems tackling in that game, but he had a bad game pretty much every which way, and it's starting to get a little bit weird, right? This guy isn't making plays on the ball at all this year. He's got 1 pass defensed this whole season. I think it was in week 1 against Bo Nix. That's not the Devin Witherspoon that I know. The Devin Witherspoon that I know makes plays on the ball like he's breathing. PFF grade fell sharply in this game because he was graded out very poorly. He did pick up a lot of tackles, I think, but that's not necessarily a good thing. Yeah, 6. And he missed tackles and he got beaten coverage. It was I mean, maybe it's a little bit of a sophomore slump. We're seeing plenty of sophomore slumps out there right now, right? Like, CJ Stroud isn't playing as well as a lot of people thought he would. Anthony Richardson looks worse than he did last year, and that's saying something. Sophomore slumps are a thing, but that is a little bit surprising that we're having this conversation with a player this talented. Pritchett got beat up pretty badly out there. PFF grade in the 30s, almost the 20s. Really, really bad. Picked up a couple tackles in that game, but he's got a long way to go. And D. Williams continues to do good work on special teams when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. Although in this game, he did have a good punt return. Kobe Bryant moving to the safeties here. Our one young safety on this team. Played a really good game. Double-digit tackles and a pick. PFF didn't really reward him for it, but I thought he played quite well. Not perfect, But given the fact that he's basically our fourth safety and he had to play basically that whole game, I'm very happy. That's what we got for the young players this week. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks.